Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Alicia from Primarily Optimistic, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my first week of school. If you are new here, I am departmentalized. I'm teaching third grade this year. So for our first week of school, we just had 3 days. So we were here Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And yeah, I'm going to talk to you about like what I did, and how my class is going so far. So by far, out of the third grade team, I have the most chatty class. And at first that was really hard, but now that we have like developed a positive classroom environment and bond, I miss when they're not in the class. So with third grade and how it works for our school is that I just see half of our grade level. So I have my class for 2.5 hours, and then I have one more class for about 2.5 hours, because there is another reading teacher in our grade level, and she sees the other half of third grade. So she sees her class and then the last class. And so when I don't have my kids and I have the other class, I miss when they're not in the classroom. And I think that's just because I had 3 full solid days of building a good foundation with my class, and I haven't had a chance to do that with the other class because they stayed with their teacher for the first 3 days. So here was the rundown of what we did for the first day of school. The students came in, they picked up their breakfast, and I just let them eat their breakfast. If they didn't eat their breakfast or didn't pick up breakfast, I had the stem bins out on the carpet that they were allowed to play with while they waited for others. That just gave me enough time to see who was here, what needed to be done, and it allowed for others to have breakfast without it being chaotic, because they were busy playing. So that was really helpful. After they had breakfast, we just went ahead and talked about what the morning would look like. So I told them that when they came in, they would greet me in the front of the door, and there was greeting choices that they could pick. And that after they greet me, they would come in and make their lunch choice. They would unpack their bag. So at that point, they just had their water bottles and school supplies. So they unpacked their bag with the school supplies, and we went ahead and put them where they needed to be. That was in front of the room. So I still had the bins of school supplies for Meet the Teacher out, because I know that not everyone had brought their supplies whenever they came to meet me. So we did that. If they had already unpacked and didn't have school supplies, they went ahead and put their backpacks in the locker if they didn't leave it after Meet the Teacher. So we got all of that together. I talked to them about how to make their lunch choice. So with the magnets, how if they were just going to move it from home to school. And for school lunch, there's not 2 choices. There's just one school lunch choice here. So I showed them how to do that, and they did that. Because some students were still playing on the carpet, I introduced the doorbell. I have a doorbell in the classroom as a signal for when they hear it in the morning, it's time to clean up and get ready to transition into the other. So I played it for them, and then I talked about, okay, when you hear that noise, it's time to pick up your stem bins. I showed them where to put it, and they picked up very quickly. I was very surprised. I thought it would take a little bit longer. But again, I'm also used to preschool, so they did awesome at that. After they did the doorbell, they went back to their seats, and we transitioned to the carpet for the first time. So we talked about what that should look like, what it should sound like, and honestly, they did a really great job. Like, they didn't push or shove. They just walked calmly over to the carpet. They found a spot. If the spot that they were going to sit at and someone was there, they just moved. Like, they were really good at problem solving. And so talking about the carpet wasn't a huge issue, and it still hasn't been an issue even as the school has gone on. So they did really well at that. And then we read our first book, First Day Jitter. So I read this story with them, and I had this anchor chart. I had this anchor chart that we did, and we talked about how we felt on the first day. So I just gave them a sticky note and I just told them to come and put their sticky note with how they felt. And then we drank our Jitter juice. So I brought in Capri Suns for everyone and they went back to their seats and we drank that and kind of just talked about like, you know, our lives, just getting to know each other during that time while we were drinking that. After we did that, I wanted to do a class building activity. And we played rock, paper, scissors. So it was a rock, paper, scissors challenge. We're going to be starting to talk about a Kagan structure called stand up, hand up, pair up. And so they practiced that and they did an air high five with their partner. And then we talked about how to play the game. So how to play the game is that your partner and you will do rock, paper, scissors, shoot. On shoot, you need to show your choice. And then if you win, you move on. And if you didn't win that round, you only play one time. So it's best 1 out of 1. If you tie, then you play again to do to see who was the winner. So the person who didn't win follows the winner and the two of them go battle on someone else. And so if you didn't win, you are cheering on the person that like on your side of the team. So they battled until the end, and so pretty much it's like half of the class. So half of the class is cheering for one person who's winning on their side, and the other half is cheering for their teammate on the other side, and they battle each other, and then the winner, the whole class cheers on that winner. And so it was a really good opportunity for them to introduce each other without doing that whole awkward icebreaker, my name is blah blah blah. I didn't like that as a kid, and so I knew that I didn't want to do something like that because it was nerve-wracking every time it was your turn and everyone's watching you. And so this was a great opportunity for them to learn each other's names without having that awkward icebreaker interaction. And they loved it. So we played at least 2 or 3 rounds. Just because it went by pretty quick once they got the hang of it. They started cheering each other on. We talked about good things to say to your teammate who was trying to battle and win. And so some of them were said that they could say go so-and-so and say their name, or you can do it. Nice job, keep going. You're going to do awesome. All of those positive things that they could say, they did, and they cheered one another on. And so they really loved that game. And even still, they still asked to play rock, paper, scissors challenge. So I knew it was a great class building activity. And with that activity, they learn about positive affirmations and good things to say to cheer each other up when maybe they're having not such a good day. So did that. I introduced one of their quiet signals, and so this was really, really helpful. So although my class was chatty, they are excellent at the quiet signals. So when I said hands up top, they automatically all said, everybody stop, and they had their hands on their head. I didn't even have to tell them that. And so I think that their previous classes have really drilled in those quiet signals, and they did awesome. Another one I introduced was stop. So I said ST and they say OP, and they had never heard that one. So that one took a little bit more practice, but they still were able to do that. Other ones that we did and that they knew were I said holy moly, they say guacamole. I say macaroni and cheese, they say everybody freeze. There was one from art that they wanted to learn and wanted us to do in our classroom, and I think it was red, yellow, blue. I say red, yellow, blue, and they say eyes on you. So they started coming up with other ones that they've already heard that they wanted us to do in our classroom, or ones that they wanted to make up to get their attention. And so although they were chatty, they do these quiet signals or attention getters so good that it doesn't quite matter that they're so chatty, because they're easy to quiet, and then we move on to the next thing. So We did that. And then we started talking about the rules of our classroom. So we've already been introduced, we've already sat together as a class. Now it was time to talk about some of the rules in our classroom, where to find things. And the main thing was flexible seating. I explained to the students that they would be in their spot for 3 days so that they would really be able to get an idea of whether that classroom or that flexible seating option was going to be good for them or not so good for them. So in order for that to not be so boring, I asked them to go pick, like I called on a student, asked them to go pick a flexible seating option that they wanted to learn more about, and brought it up in front of the class so that everyone could see. And I sat on each flexible seating, and as I was sitting there, they were thinking about what I was doing, how I was sitting, whether that was a good choice or a not so good choice. And so I modeled for them what was a good choice, and I also modeled for them what was a not so good choice. So the yoga balls, not so good choice was running and like putting your belly on the ball and rolling, trying to roll like that. And so yes, I did do that. I showed what it would look like to put the ball on your belly and roll on it. And why that wasn't such a good choice. We talked about what the wobble stools, not so good choice, was spinning round and round, and why that wasn't a good choice. One, I got super dizzy, and so I explained to them, like, this is how I'm feeling right now, so that they would get an idea of like, oh, that's probably not a good choice because she's feeling dizzy, she's gonna get hurt, gonna hurt someone else around her. But they did really good. So we modeled all of that. Every single spot that we modeled about the coffee table and how it had cushions. So I showed them like that spot wasn't a place to rest your head because it had a cushion, especially the independent tables with the pillows. Like, my job is not to be trying to go to sleep, it's for me to be focused. And that also plays into the rules. So the rules that I had for flexible seating was that they were going to choose a spot that they think would make them successful. Right now, it's just that they think, because they haven't had an opportunity to try all of the flexible seating, and they don't know which one's going to be successful for them. So that was an opportunity for them to see. The other ones are stay focused on your task the entire time. Do not disturb others. Use each seat appropriately. So that went in with the modeling. Your favorite seat might be someone else's too. So share. And be kind. And we talked about how once we've tried all of the flexible seating options and we come into the room, if they have had that seat for a long time and someone else would like to try it, they should be kind and let the other person have a chance. But if they still can't figure that out, they get to play rock, paper, scissors one time. Whoever's the winner gets the seat. If they're still arguing about the seat, I get to pick their seat for them. No one will have that spot. And so we talked a lot about how it's their choice, but it's not a right. I don't have to give them flexible seating, and I can take it away at any time. And so that was one of the other rules, was the teacher has the right to move the student anytime, anyone anytime. And then our last one was put the flexible seating options exactly where you found them. So when they leave and transition back to their classroom, to the other class, all flexible seating is pushed in. The pillows are back on the tables. If they go into a chair, they're back there. Everything is nice and tidy for the next class to come in. So that took a lot of time to model each thing, talk about some of our rules. Yes. So then we moved on to birthday numbers. So that was their time where they got a number for their birthday month, and they could decorate it how they wanted to. I played music, and then I took pictures so that I could put it up on our birthdays. We lined up for the first time, and so we talked about what that looks like, what does it sound like. We went to the bathroom, we talked about what that looks like, what that sounds like, having the boy line, having the girl line. They had to pay attention to who comes out, because there are 4 students who go in at a time. So as soon as one student comes out, then another one can go in. Then we sat down and we read your letter, a letter for your teacher. And this was, I also had given this to them on a magnet for them to read. during Meet the Teacher, but some of them didn't. So I read this book again, and then I had them write a letter to me. So their letter just simply looked like this, and it said, what kind of teacher do you want? So we talked about like what kind of teacher would they want to have and why they would want to have it. So some of these were really, really sweet, and it also gave me a good opportunity to see their writing level and what we still also needed to work on without it being an assessment. So I'll read you some of my favorite ones that I got. Most of them were very similar. This one said, Dear Miss Boersma, I want you to be a reading teacher and help other kids. Dear Miss Boersma, I like how you are right now. Dear Miss Boersma, I want you to be a funny teacher, a funny and a fun teacher. Dear Miss Boersma, the type of teacher I want is a nice, caring, always helping, funny, but a bit strict. This one made me laugh. It said, Dear Miss Boersma, I want you to be a puppet and fidget teacher and do cool stuff like singing. You can buy all the fidgets and puppets in the world and simple dimples, which is a type of fidget that they like. This one says, Dear Miss Boersma, I want you to be a nice teacher. You are my favorite teacher already. You are so nice and you help us. Dear Miss Boersma, I like how you are now because you are nice. Dear Miss Boersma, I want you to be the teacher that helps me and is a really kind and really wonderful teacher and is really, really sweet, because I know you are going to be a wonderful and the best teacher ever. So those, that was just so sweet already within the first couple of hours. Some of them already had said that I want you to be exactly how you are now. I don't want you to change anything. You're already nice. You're already sweet. And so that was just really sweet to already know. So we did that. Let's see. I have a little cheat sheet exactly of what we did. And I lost my spot. While they were writing those letters, I called over some of the students that I didn't know how they were getting home because they didn't come to meet the teacher and they didn't fill out the form. So during that time while they were writing, I went over to students and asked them how they were planning on getting home. We learned another Kagan structure called Rally Robin. So we talked about what is it? What does it look like? Rally Robin is when you have a partner and one person says an idea and the next person, your partner, says an idea, and you go back and forth until the time limit is over. So they practiced Rally Robin with their favorite food, and then they tried Rally Robin with the flexible seating rules. So they were talking with one another about our rules of our flexible seating, because it's so important that they understand that in order for them to still have choice about where they are going to sit. And then they signed a contract. So the contract just looks like this, and they just sign their name and put the date. So we did that. We did another brain break just for them to get moving because we had been sitting for a little bit. And then I introduced our tiger binder and our scholar dollars and what that was about. Then we played Find Somebody Who, and they liked that. Another way to introduce one another and finding connections without doing that awkward icebreaker game. We talked about lunch expectations, where to go, what recess expectations we had, and then we used the restroom. When we came back from lunch and recess, we used the restroom again. And then we met on the carpet and we did Alma and the Worry Stone. I read this book, and afterwards we talked about independent working expectations. So what that looked like, what that sounded like while they were at their seats working on an All About Me page. I called students over to make their little worry stone, and I'll also insert a picture up here. And so they got to pick 3 colors, and they followed the directions like I gave them to make this stone, and then later that night I baked it so that they would be able to have it for the next day. This was also helpful for my friends who said that they were nervous or shy, or just in general because they like to fidget with things. This group is chatty, but also a group that likes to have something in their hands all the time. This was perfect for that. So they made those. Then that kind of just got us towards the end of the day. We did an index card challenge, and so they worked with the teammates that were at their table, and they tried to build the tallest tower with index cards within 2 minutes. And so when they did that, after they built their tower, we looked around to see who had the tallest tower. And I asked them, what did you notice about your team? What do you think would have helped while you were working together? And they tried another Kagan structure called numbered heads together. So they talked and agreed about what they could do better that they all agreed on, so that they could try it for the next time that they were going to do the index card challenge and build that tower. So most of them said that talking with one another would have really helped instead of one person taking charge. Different strategies that they could try, making sure that if their strategy didn't work, that the next teammate, their idea, that they tried the idea that the other teammates had given them, all of those things. So talked about collaboration, working as a team, not just one person. So that was really helpful for them, and they really liked that. So that gave us to the end of the day. We did packing up expectations, how to put away our flexible seating, and then we dismissed for day 1. That was a lot to talk about, but it's already a lot to talk about anyway because of your classroom and how everything's gonna run. Okay, I had to move because my phone was going to die and I needed to move closer to a charging. So the second day of school, I came with one of my students brought a little note already for the first day. It said, "Dear Miss Boersma, you are the best teacher ever. I already know I'm going to have the best year ever." And then they signed their name and made a little rainbow. This was already so sweet to have on the very first day, or the second day of school. And so it just reminded me of like how much the students just really love you and the things that you do in the classroom, and not what the classroom looks like, because that's not what's important to them. It's how you make them feel. And so that was just really sweet. So we had breakfast. We went over the morning expectations, greeting me, lunch choice, putting their stuff away. They got their tiger binders on the first day of school. So they were able to unpack their tiger binder, unpack their water bottle, put their stuff in the locker, put their snack in their cubbies, and their lunch boxes on the gray tub that we have. So we did all of that. Then we practiced round robin again. So round robin, instead of rally robin is just with 2 people. Round robin is with a whole table, so 3 or more. So we practiced like how to do that, what it looked like, what it sounded like, and they round robin their favorite part about yesterday. And then if they wanted to share, they could share out what their favorite part was. I told them that they couldn't share that their favorite part was recess and lunch, because that's everyone's favorite part. Most of them said that they loved like making the worry stones, drinking the Jitter juice, and doing our first day feelings. Getting to know one another, playing the rock, paper, scissors challenge. So almost everyone said that everything that we did yesterday was probably their favorite part, between the whole class sharing. So then we played the game All My Friends. Oh no, we didn't do that. We didn't get a chance to do that. I talked about the agenda and how every day we would meet on the carpet, talk about how the day was going to go, share something. We were going to share, do an activity, and then I would talk to them about like what we were going to do for the day. Then we read Officer Buckle and Gloria, and this helped us with our classroom rules, why they were important, and what is a rule. So then we talked about what does it mean to be respectful, responsible, safe, and a learner. All of the classrooms in the school have this little chart. I'm going to point my finger at it. And it says exactly that. So it says respectful, responsible, safe, and a learner. So overall, that's our classroom expectations, but they needed to define that on their own terms. What did they want us to do? What does it look like to be respectful, responsible, safe, and a learner? So we did that with an anchor chart, and I will try to show you. So this is what they said that what they wanted responsible to look like, safe, respectful, and learner. They came up with these ideas, and then they signed it as our classroom contract. So we refer to that a lot. After we signed the contract, we read the story, Our Class is a Family. We talked about how we're going to be spending most of our time together, and why it's important to treat each other like family. So this is such a good read aloud. I love it because it talks about like family is not just people who you are related to. They are people that you spend the majority of your time with. So that was perfect to go with that. And then they signed a class contract. They signed the class contract with their name. Then to get them moving and another class building activity, we did the hula hoop challenge. So they worked with their teammates first in a group of 4. And I explained to the game that they would have a hula hoop and their job was to get everyone through, like they would be holding hands, and their job was to get everyone through the hula hoop without without unholding their hands. And so they had to really communicate and work as a team in order to get the hula hoop to the end of the line within a specific amount of time. After that, then we tried where half and half of the class was working against each other instead of small groups of 4, and seeing if they could get the hula hoop through their team's quickest. And then finally we did it as one big class, and we put tried to get the hula hoop down the line within a given amount of time. And so they loved that game as well, and it was a great class building activity. Then we used the restrooms, and I started our read aloud. So I'm going to have a chapter book read aloud, and for the first one I picked Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing by Judy Blume. They love this book already. They think Fudge is so funny. When I asked them who was their favorite character, most of them said Fudge, but a couple of them also really loved Peter. We went to specials. We talked about how to earn a badge. And so part of earning a badge gives us like our compliment to earn towards our class parties. We picked what kind of class party we wanted. You have to get 40. Most of them start out with 20 stripes. So they had to get 20 compliments in order to earn their first party. Our class decided that we would like to try for 40 stripes to earn extra recess. So they've already made it. They already have 13 compliments, and they're working towards that 40 goal challenge. Then we did an anchor chart about a leader versus a boss. So in our classroom, what does a leader look like? What does a boss look like? That was kind of a little hard for them to think outside the box, because most of them wanted to say that a boss that you are working for was a leader. And so I had to take it into the concept of, what does your bossy friend look like? What does the bossy friend sound like? And what do you want a leader to do? What does a leader look like? Like modeling good expectations, helping others, treating people with kindness, all of those things. And so I talked about, well, if you are being a boss, you're not showing those leadership skills. And so if I notice those things, I may tell them, be a leader, not a boss, to indicate, oh, what am I doing that's bossy? How can I fix it? Then we did a student bingo, so kind of like find somebody who. They had to find people who could do certain things, so tell a joke. And with that connection, after playing bingo, I learned that all of my students love jokes, and almost all of them could tell you a joke right off the spot. So them just telling each other jokes and sharing with the whole class took a few minutes, but they loved it. And that was a great connection that all of them had with one another. They also found other things that they liked, like if they could ride a bike, if they went to the zoo or go swimming. And so they connected on a lot of levels just with that activity. Then we went to lunch and recess, used the restroom. Then we played the game All My Friends. So this was another class building of what they have in common. The object of the game is that someone will say, all my friends have something, and it has to be true about them. So for me, if I said, all my friends are wearing a red or maroon shirt, everyone who's wearing the red or maroon shirt will get up and try to find a spot really quickly. The last person standing has to do all my friends. And so they loved that game. They thought it was so fun. And so they found a lot of commonalities between one another with that game too. Then we talked about, we reviewed the flexible seating expectations, and then we talked about picking a just right book. What does that look like? We talked about the 5-finger rule. If a book is too easy and you're reading, you have 0 fingers up. If you have 1 or 2 things that you missed while you were reading, it was perfect. If you missed 3 or 4, you could try the book, but if you missed 5 or 6, 5 or more, the book was too hard for you. And so that gave them a chance to find their just right book within our classroom library. We talked about that the books that they pick will be the books that they keep for the rest of the week. We wouldn't trade until Fridays. And they could pick 1 picture book and 1 chapter book. Some of my students are lower students, and some of those students picked 2 picture books, and if they were higher level students who could finish the book probably within a couple of days, they picked 2 chapter books. So it just kind of depended on their reading level, but most of them were aiming towards 1 chapter book and 1 picture book. We talked about packing up expectations again. What does putting away our flexible seating look like again? And then we dismissed for day 2. Day 3, we did the same greeting, morning choice, unpacking. Already on day 3, they got scholar dollars. So if they had their tiger binders out and they were on time, they got $100. $50 for having their tiger binder out, $50 for being to school on time. We talked about why it's important for those things, being successful, being responsible, and like what it looks like for me to be respectful and responsible too. So I told them about how, me as a teacher, my job is to have my lanyard of keys. Otherwise, if I don't, what could happen? And they were like, well, we're going to get locked out. We can't get back into the building. You don't have your whistle for recess. And then they related that to their life. Well, if I don't have my tiger binder, I can't put my scholar dollars away. I can't put papers that my other teachers are asking me to put away. I have to carry it all, that kind of thing. So we gave them money for doing those things and making sure they have those expectations. We did our morning meeting. So we shared something, we did an activity, and then we talked about the agenda. Then we went and did the activity called Fair versus Equal. So I gave them all a piece of paper and they were to write a story about any time in their life that they have ever been hurt. Could be hurt their feelings, scraped their knee, had a broken bone, any of those things. So I gave them time to write their story. And then if they wanted to share when it was time, I had several of them, they would read the story out loud, and I gave every student a Band-Aid. And some of them started laughing, like whenever I gave them a Band-Aid for like the broken bone. And some of them said, well, that's not going to help them. Like what you gave them isn't going to be okay. And so we talked about, was giving a Band-Aid all equal? And they were like, yeah, we all got a Band-Aid. And then I said, but was it fair to everyone? And they're like, no, the person who got a broken bone needed more help than that. The person that got hurt with their feelings didn't need a Band-Aid. They needed someone to give them a hug or make them feel better. And so we talked about fair versus equal. Yes, it was all equal, but it wasn't all fair. And we talked about how that relates to our classroom. Like some people everyone will be treated equally, but what one person gets for what they need isn't going to be what someone else gets for what they need. And so we talked about that. So on Friday, after we did the Band-Aid share versus equal, we switched classes. So my class was able to meet the other teacher and know their classroom expectations for math and then writing. And so they did that, and I got the other reading class. So I just had them all come in and come to the carpet because they don't know anything about the flexible seating options because they didn't get to pick it for me, the teacher, and I didn't want them to be fighting over it with all of them looking for a seat at once. So I just had them come to the carpet. I introduced myself. We talked about the flexible seating options. I had them go and pick seats that they were interested in knowing about too. We modeled that. Same thing like we did for the first class. I had them sign a contract. And then I had them pick their seats. So I called Sticks, and they went to go find their seat as I was also learning their name. So then we did a quiz about me. I just asked a couple questions because by that time I only had 40 minutes with them. The other classes only got 20 if they switched. So like math, since they switched 4 times, she only got 20 minutes, and writing only got 20 minutes. But me and the other reading teacher, we stayed with our class for 40. So it gave us a little bit more time to get to know them. So by the time we went through all the expectations, we just did a quick quiz thing where I said, okay, what was my favorite color? And they would say what my favorite color was. I said, what was my favorite season? And they would tell me, how many kids do I have? Just things off the top of my head that we talked about to get them connected. Then I let them pick their seats, and I let them pick their seats, and by that time it was time to switch back. So then they went back to their class and I got my class back. Fridays are going to be our first chapter Fridays, and so I picked another book from our library that the students didn't have in their book box, and I read the first chapter of it. That lets all of the students try and get to know other stories besides what they're currently reading or what their friends are reading. So for first chapter Friday, I read the first chapter of one of our Boxcar Children books. We went to specials. Then I assigned Chromebooks. So I have a big cart of their Chromebooks. I handed them all out. We practiced logging in, so I gave them their login numbers and their password. Most of them remembered it from last year, but some of them, since they're new, they didn't have it, or they've forgotten how to log in. So that took some time just getting them logged in. We practiced, they all signed into my Google Classroom so that we have reading assignments there. We have to post at least one reading assignment. So their first reading assignment was a Chromebook contract. So we practiced where to find that, how to get into Google Classroom, and how to submit an assignment. So they just typed in their name after we talked about our Chromebook expectations, and then they typed in their name at the bottom of the box and submitted it in. Then we talked about how to close out of that and get ready for the next task. And the next task was a Kahoot game. And so we all practiced like finding Kahoot, logging in, and being able to like type in the code and then put their name in for the game. Kahoot, they loved. I gave them Scholar Dollars if they were the top 3 winners. So if you got first place, you got $300, second place, you got $200, third place, you got $100, but everyone else got $50 just for participation because it was just a fun little game. And so that Kahoot went over things about me and also things about our flexible seating, because I'm trying to help them realize how important flexible seating is for our classroom, because if they break it or pop it, I'm not buying anymore. If they can't handle it, they'll have a traditional seating spot, because when they go to the other classrooms, they have traditional seating spots. I'm the only classroom out of 3rd grade that has flexible seating. Then we did lunch and recess. When they got back from recess, we read Wilfred Gordon MacDonald Partridge, and we talked about like what a memory is, just like this friend in our book. And then I gave them their first assignment for the weekend. They had a 3-day weekend because of Labor Day the following Monday, and they were supposed to put 3 things into their brown paper bag that was something about them or was something about one of their favorite memories. And then we would start sharing them when they got back to school on Tuesday. Then they did their flexible seating reflection. So they talked about, was it comfortable for them? How well did they work in the seat from 1 to 5? What did they like about the seat with a writing prompt? And what they didn't like about the seat, so that they could figure out whether that seating choice was best for them or not. Some of them at first, before we switched, had asked if they could stay in the seating spot that they had picked because they really liked it. And I just told them that I would really like them to experience all the flexible seating to see if there's another option that they also like. And so I didn't have a student who stayed in the same spot. They all found another spot that they think that they would like. We did that, and then I gave them some independent reading time since they picked their Just Right book. They hadn't had a chance yet. and then we picked new spots. So they all came to the carpet, I drew numbers, and then they went to go do that. So then we started doing packing expectations, putting away flexible seating expectations, and then dismissal. So everything was always a review. In the mornings was a review about expectations. At the end of the day, review about expectations. I tried to put in as much reflections for flexible seating, how to earn flexible seating, what not to do during flexible seating, building our classroom rules, but also a lot of class building and team building activities. And I feel like those have really set the foundation for how our classroom is going to run for the school year. I told you that my class is chatty, but with them knowing all of those quiet signals and attention getters, they quickly quiet very quickly. They are all willing to help one another. We talked about, if someone had accidentally spilled one of the caddies, how could they quickly help their friend? Because we've all been in that spot where it's all really quiet and then boom, they hear something fall, and then how it feels to have everyone watch us, instead of someone helping us. And so they've all experienced that. Something's fallen with their lunchbox, or their school boxes have fallen, the caddies have fallen, and we talked about, everyone sits there and just watches you pick it up, and how nerve-wracking that makes us feel, how embarrassed that makes us feel, and how we could fix that so we don't feel embarrassed or shy or feel nervous that happened. And so most of them said we could help our friends quickly pick up. And so every time that has happened, at least one or two friends have always helped that person, and no one stares. They continue on with what they were doing, or if I'm talking, I'll continue while they are working, or I will try to help as well. So, that was our first 3 days. It was a lot of classroom expectations, a lot of procedures of how we're going to do things, where to find stuff, classroom building activities. Those 3 days, we didn't get a lot into content. It was all about building that classroom community with one another. And switching with the second class has been a little bit of a challenge because I don't have that bond with them yet. I didn't get the first 3 days to do that. I'm still working on that. But I have noticed that the other class, they're very competitive, which is fine. But they also have a very hard time of losing respectfully. And so I am this week coming up, going to be working a lot with growth mindset with them, and how to lose respectfully so that they're not hurting others' feelings, but also not bringing themselves down either. So I miss when my kids aren't in my class because we've built such a great bond with one another, and I don't have that yet with the second class, but I am excited to make it work. Also, with the second class and flexible seating, they can't handle it. So I've done everything the same as with my first class, but the second class is coming from a classroom that doesn't have flexible seating. And so when they get here, it is very hard for them to transition from, okay, this is my seating choice, instead of this is where I have to sit. So I've already had to move 3 of their friends, within the first 2 days. And that's where they're going to sit. They're going to have the traditional seat spot for their 3 days that they are there. And each day we talk about, okay, how can you earn your flexible seating back? What should it look like? What are not good decisions? Because they're distracting others, or mainly they can't sit on it the correct way. They can't use the seat appropriately. So we're going to work on that with the second class, but I think third grade is going to be an awesome year. I love my class. I can't say that enough. It's going to be a great year. I'm excited to share more with you about how flexible seating is going, the things that I'm doing in the classroom. If you have any questions, want to know anything from the slides or where to find those activities, just comment below in the box and I will try my best to send you the link or give you an idea of how you could also do it and implement it within your classroom. So that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.